I'm dressed like this today in my personal protective equipment, or PPE, because I want to talk to you about Ebola. Ebola. Even the name sounds scary, and just talking about it makes me want to suit up. But is it really necessary, all this PPE? When talking about the virus, no. But when you're working with or around the virus, it's imperative to have full body protection. This is Ebola virus. It is a Filoviridae family virus, or filovirus, and it's named so because the particles form short, long, and sometimes branch filaments. It is a single-stranded RNA virus. There's the RNA here that is surrounded by a capsid and then further enveloped by glycoprotein. The RNA is the building block of proteins. The capsid serves to protect the RNA, and the glycoprotein coat actually facilitates infection by binding to, it facilitates the binding to your cells. According to Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, there are 5 subtypes of Ebola virus. 4 are infectious to humans, and 1, the Reston subtype, is not, at least not so far. The subtype responsible for the outbreak of disease in West Africa is the Zaire Ebola virus. It is highly infectious and the most deadly of the subtypes. Fatality rates can be as high as 90% during an outbreak. Ebola causes hemorrhagic fever, which is a life-threatening illness that they call Ebola virus disease, or EVD. There's no vaccine to prevent EVD or drug to treat EVD, and no cure, at least not at this point. All we can do is manage a patient's symptoms and prevent EVD from spreading. Now this sounds pretty grim, right? The only good news is that we can contain and manage Ebola if the right precautions are taken. This virus is only spread by close, direct contact with a person who is exhibiting symptoms, or by unsanitary hospital practices. It is not aerosolized, so you can't breathe it in. It is spread by direct contact with infected bodily fluids such as blood or mucus, and it has to enter the bloodstream, say through a cut. And the viral load has to be large enough to cause infection. So it's not spread from person to person easily. Only Ebola patients with active symptoms need to be quarantined to prevent the spread of disease. But in close contact, under the right circumstances, you're likely to become infected. Dr. Sanjay Gupta says that Ebola is highly infectious but not highly contagious. This is important to remember. So why can our immune system fight off an Ebola infection, and where did Ebola come from, and where does it go between outbreaks? These questions have a common answer, and that answer is that humans are not the reservoir host for Ebola. A reservoir host is defined by metalexicon.com as the host of an infection in which the infectious agent multiplies and or develops, and on which the agent depends for survival in nature, or the host essential for maintaining the infection during times when active transmission is not occurring. Experts are fairly certain the reservoir host for Ebola virus is the fruit bat. See if I can get in close enough to show you that. So this is the fruit bat, little cartoon of the fruit bat here. And just to give you an overview before I switch back here, my focus, the fruit bat will then communicate the virus to an intermediate host, and then a human comes in contact with that intermediate host and becomes infected. So fruit bats become infected, but they don't get sick or die. They just carry the virus. It's only when the virus mutates or jumps species to a non-native host that it becomes lethal. So evidence suggests that the intermediate hosts, as I showed you, between bats and humans are primates, such as chimpanzees, and also duikers, which are small African antelopes. When a human comes in contact with a sick primate or antelope, for instance by hunting them and preparing the meat, he can become exposed. And once the virus has infected a human, it can be passed on to other humans and potentially create an epidemic. The virus also continues to mutate in humans, which makes it more difficult to treat and prevent. As for why humans can't mount a defense against Ebola virus infection, it's because Ebola is new to our immune system. By the time the virus is recognized by our immune system as foreign, it is already out of control. Baylor College of Medicine considers Ebola an emerging infectious disease. According to BCM, emerging infectious diseases are infections that have recently appeared within a population or those whose incidence or geographic range is rapidly increasing or threatens to increase in the near future. Emerging infections can be caused by the following: previously undetected or unknown infectious agents, known agents that have spread to new geographic locations or new populations, previously known agents whose role in specific diseases has previously gone unrecognized, and reemergence of agents whose incidence of disease has significantly declined in the past, but whose incidence of disease has reappeared. This class of diseases is known as reemerging infectious diseases. Here is a short epidemiology of the virus from Baylor College of Medicine, and I'll quote here. Ebola was first recognized in 1976 as the cause of twin outbreaks of disease near the Ebola River in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, then known as Zaire, and in a region of Sudan. Some 300 people in each country became infected. The mortality rate was 88% in Zaire and 53% in Sudan. The Zaire subtype is the most deadly. Although the circumstances of the original human infections are not known, the disease spread through close, direct contact and as a result of unsafe and unsanitary hospital practices, such as the use of contaminated needles and the lack of sufficient containment measures. Sporadic and smaller outbreaks have erupted over the succeeding years in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Gabon, Uganda, and Sudan. The Reston subtype of the virus was first identified in 1989 in the United States in monkeys housed in a quarantine facility in Reston, Virginia. At least 4 humans became infected, but none became ill. And additional outbreaks of the Reston subtype occurred between 1989 and 1996 in Texas, Pennsylvania, and in Italy. No humans suffered illness in any of these cases. The source of all the Reston subtype outbreaks was traced to a single facility in the Philippines that exported monkeys. In July of 2009, the discovery of the Reston subtype in domestic pigs in the Philippines was reported. Genetic analysis suggests that the virus has been widely circulating in swine for many years, possibly even before the 1989 outbreak in the United States. The virus has been detected in farmers who've had contact with infected pigs, but they've not shown any signs of illness. In the spring of 2014, as we know, a large and rapidly spreading outbreak of ED erupted for the first time in West Africa. The initial cases in Guinea were reported to the World Health Organization in mid-March of this year, and soon thereafter cases were reported in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Reports came from multiple regions within these countries. Ebola arrived in Nigeria during July when a person who had contact with an Ebola victim in Liberia traveled by plane to Nigeria and infected several contacts. In late August, Ebola reached a 5th country when Senegal confirmed its first and to date only case. Mali reported its first case in October after a symptomatic young girl traveled from Guinea to Mali and died shortly afterwards. None of her contacts became infected. However, an independent small cluster arose a short time later after an elderly man with undiagnosed disease traveled from Guinea to Mali. The outbreak has been declared officially over in Senegal and in Nigeria. Transmission continues in Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, although by early November there were indications that the outbreak was slowing in Liberia, stabilizing in Guinea, but still very concerning in Sierra Leone. The virus that's causing the outbreak in West Africa is very closely related to the Zaire Ebola virus. The virus appears to be rapidly accumulating mutations as it spreads through people, and it's too soon to know if or how these mutations might alter the course of the EBD outbreak. So, Ebola outbreaks are scary, and Ebola should be treated with caution and respect, but remember that Ebola is highly infectious but not highly contagious. The conditions have to be just right in order for you to become exposed. You will not get sick from just being around a person infected with an Ebola virus. So practice good hand washing this winter and get your flu shot to boost your viral immunity, and you should be good to go.